You've decided to weigh in. How come?
Well, I think politics affects all of our lives, and we're all citizens. We all have a stake in what happens in this country. We pay taxes here. Our kids are growing up here, going to schools here. And so we all have a stake in what happens here. And I don't want to sit out. I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also that I lift up other voices and make sure they're heard too. So not only am I here myself, but I spend a lot of my time and energy going around the country talking to people in communities. We've been in Louisiana recently, in Detroit, in Cleveland, listening to their concerns, thinking about the issues that matter the most to them and how we can be helpful. And hopefully our politicians are doing the same thing.
I heard someone the other day describe Kamala Harris as famous and yet not well known, meaning that they don't know all the details of her biography, maybe not all the details of what she believes. So for people in that category, just getting to know her, you've endorsed her. Why? What do you like about her?
Well, I live in California, so I've gotten to watch her run for election multiple times, gotten to support her in those elections, and seeing how smart and charismatic and empathetic and how ready she is for this. Being vice president is, it's a tough job because you're kind of like the understudy and you don't necessarily get a lot of attention, but she's in all these meetings where they're meeting with foreign dignitaries, they're talking about policy that's going to affect everyone, and so she's through all these different experiences as district attorney, as attorney general, as senator, and then vice president, she's prepared herself for this role. She is eminently qualified to be president, and then she also has the right character traits, I think, to be a great president, which means she cares about people's lives, wants government to work for people and improve their lives, and she really got into her original role as district attorney because she cared about people and wanted to provide safety and protection for them and do what she could to make her community safer.
After Joe Biden gave his speech on Monday night, there was a moment, I think a lot of people at this point, it was way after midnight, may not have been awake, but she was on stage with Joe Biden and they had an emotional exchange.
Yes.
They hugged, he kissed her.
Yes.
And there was a real connection there. As someone who's been close to her, who knows her a lot better than most people, what is she like as a human being, as a person?
I think she cares so much about other people, and whenever you talk to her, she's always willing to give advice. She's always giving great hugs and really sees you and pays attention to you. And I think we need politicians like that, people who actually care about the people they're interacting with and they're representing and caring about making other people's lives better and not just in it for themselves.
Yeah. You're not the only celebrity that's going to be in the United Center in the next few days. I've seen quite a few. Democrats seem to do a heck of a lot better with the kind of famous person vote. Fair to say.
Well, I think the creative community, I don't think of us as just being famous. I think we're all creatives. And I think being a creative person makes you have kind of a more liberal disposition. You are more open, and you don't put a lot of boundaries and barriers around issues like race and sexuality and gender expression. And so I think the Democratic Party, I think, is just a more hospitable home for creative people because we're just liberal by disposition. We care about freedom. We care about being open, and the other party not so open and freedom loving.
You touch on there, I think, just barely, but you get over the question of policy. If there are one or two or three areas of policy that say this is why I'm a Democrat and this is why I support Kamala Harris, what are they?
Well, I grew up in Ohio, and I grew up in a UAW family. My father built trucks for a living, so people look at me now and they see the glamour and the celebrity, but I grew up in a blue-collar family in a blue-collar town in Ohio, and from my experience through the years, the Democratic Party has cared more about those types of families, making sure life is better for workers, people who are struggling to stay in the middle class, struggling to get into the middle class, and that means caring about housing costs, caring about Social Security, caring about a safety net that protects people and make sure their children have an opportunity to grow up and have opportunity and thrive in this country. And I just have seen the Democratic Party over the years be more concerned about that and when they're at their best. and that's why I tend to vote for Democratic politicians.
You know, the fact that Democrats seem to do better with creatives, with celebrities, it cuts both ways.
Sure.
On the one hand, it creates a lot of interest, particularly among young people. But on the other hand, it allows Republicans to look at the party and say it's the party of coastal elites.
It's just Hollywood elites. I understand.
It's the party of Hollywood. It doesn't care about you and your life. Everyday America is the phrase you hear.
Yeah, but then they're represented by a guy who grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, who was gifted a real estate company, grew up in New York City, and is only famous because he was on national television playing a businessman. So, you know, it doesn't ring very true for them to accuse us of being the Hollywood elites. I'm from Springfield, Ohio. I grew up in a blue-collar family. I would not even comprehend the kind of upbringing someone like Donald Trump had.
But, you know, politics is not always rational. People are people. People are emotional. They come to decisions for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes they're starting in a good place. Usually they are. It doesn't mean they're going to end up where you end up. What convinces you, as John Legend, that the celebrity support for the Democrats and for Kamala Harris is a benefits Democrat, actually helps?
I think it can go both ways, like you said, but I think it's important for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to focus on the people. Don't focus on us. Go out there, talk to the people, listen to their concerns, and you can tell from the policy pronouncements that Vice President Harris put out last week talking about the economy. She's not doing that for me. She's doing that for everyday Americans. And that's what she needs to keep her eye on and keep her ear to, is the concerns of everyday Americans. And as long as she's doing that, going out and listening, and then proposing policies like, you know, benefits for first-time housing buyers, benefits for folks with children who are struggling to raise their kids. That's what great leaders do, and that's what great politicians do, is listen to the people and propose policies that will actually improve people's lives. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about what I need. Worry about all those folks around the country who are the version of me growing up in Springfield, Ohio, and families like ours.
But take your neighbors, say, in Springfield, Ohio, in that working class community. When they hear that a major recording artist has endorsed a candidate, do you think that makes a difference in how they vote?
I think for a lot of people it doesn't. For some it might, but I think the job of the campaign is to go out there and press the flesh, talk to the people, listen to their concerns, and deliver for them. And so what's going to make a bigger difference is those volunteers out in their community, people who live down the street from them going to canvass. And what I've loved about what's happened with the Kamala Harris campaign is the volunteering has gone way up. And so you've got people on the ground out there speaking for the campaign.
Well, this is so interesting, because what I hear you saying is that you're not a political scientist. You're not necessarily sure if celebrity support helps or hurts Democrats, but just John Legend as a person cares about politics.
Sure.
And so that's why you're involved.
I do care, and some of my fellow artists and actors don't care, and they don't spend a lot of energy focused on it. But I do care, so I go out there and try to do what I can to make a difference. But I'm not convinced that me saying I'm for Kamala Harris is going to make anyone change their mind. But I do believe that I'm a citizen too, and I'm going to speak out about things I care about.
You know, we had Jamie Harrison, who's the chairperson of the Democratic National Committee. You know Jamie, okay. And I pointed out to Jamie that we've been hearing Beyonce on the speakers, they're testing out the audio. And you see a lot of people wearing kind of Beyonce hats, a sash, Cowboy Kamala. It raises the question. Of whether Beyonce herself will be here.
We all have questions. I don't have any answers, though.
I would think you might have answers.
I don't have answers.
You know
a
lot of people. You know.
I wish I knew. I wish I could tell you.
I mean,
I still wouldn't tell you, but I wish I could.
You wish you could? Okay. All right. So this is an honest no. Any other potential surprises?
I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen, but
you're telling me you don't have a text message on your phone right now from someone like, "Hey, I happen to be in Chicago," and you're like, "No way, what's going on?"
I know I have a show tonight, and I'm excited for that, but I have no idea who's going to be performing on the convention stage.
What do you think the winning argument is in closing here for the Democrats in 2024?
Well, I think they've been making it, is that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz care about people like you. They care about ordinary Americans, and they want to make life better for ordinary Americans. And their opponent cares about enriching himself and his other rich friends, and the difference is very clear.
Last question. It's sort of academic, but it's important question of whether people are convinced by celebrity endorsements. USA Today put out a poll earlier this year and found that they actually don't make a difference, with one exception.
Oh, what's the exception?
The
John Legend.
The Obamas have some impact.
Well, they're not celebrities. They've become celebrities, but their roots are in politics. And Barack Obama's roots are in community organizing, representing the people in this community here in Chicago, and then becoming a senator representing the state of Illinois. And so you can call him a celebrity now, but he's a politician, and he's done the work, you know? He's gone out there, campaigned, sat in living rooms in Iowa and listened to people's concerns, and then got elected.
Yeah.
So it's different.